Morning, everybody. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Web Reservations International, we're the global leader in online reservations for budget, independent and youth accommodation, focusing primarily on hostels through our main consumer brands, hostelworld.com and hostels.com. We also sell B&Bs, guest houses, recently launched Bed and Breakfast World, which is targeted at a slightly different demographic, but again, value accommodation. And we also sell budget hotels, self-catering accommodation. We run about 350 other smaller websites, primarily city and country sites, again, all focused on budget and youth accommodation. The business is about 11 years old. Last year, we partnered with Hellman & Friedman, who are an absolutely phenomenal private equity investment firm. And working with us very much, through the next phase of growth of the business. When Marco asked me to speak about online travel, he said, I want you to talk about the sector and the industry, and if you want, you can throw in a slide or two at the end about WRI. And I think when you've got a business as great as ours is, it's very hard to get up and to talk about Expedia and Travelocity and so on, and rather than talking about Hostelworld and Hostels.com. What I wanted to do is, I suppose, just give a little bit of context of the sector and how it's evolved, and I suppose particularly, the increasing focus on accommodation and particular segments of accommodation. So, if you look at what I would consider as the four mainstream online travel agents in the US, Priceline, Expedia, Orbitz, and Travelocity, all started focusing very, very much on air travel and continue to focus on air. Obviously, Orbitz was started by airlines, but all of those four sites in the US still lead with air. If you go on to any of those sites, the first thing they'll do is try to sell you a flight. Now, all of those companies, I think, and other companies in the online travel space are beginning to look more and more to accommodation, and there's probably two reasons for that. I think number one, there's more money to be made in accommodation in terms of the commissions, in terms of the room for growth and increasing penetration. But I think also, as you look to new regions for growth, the consumer demands and the consumer cultures in different regions make it more important to focus on accommodation as well. So, looking at each of those four, when they moved into Europe, and some of them came to initially to build their own brands in Europe with varying degrees of success, and then they all at some stage or other along the way acquired companies in Europe, and the companies that they've acquired are all very, very accommodation focused. So Priceline bought Booking.com. It's only accommodation. You can't buy flights on Booking.com. Expedia bought Venere, again only accommodation. Orbitz bought eBookers. That's probably the only one that is still very much flight focused, and Orbitz is very much an air site and is stated intention of moving more and more into accommodation, but will probably find it a little bit more difficult. And last minute again, you can buy flights on it, but they lead with air. So I'm not sure whether you can see that chart very, very clearly, but that's just some data from Amadeus, which looks at the overall online travel landscape in the US compared to Europe. I'm basically saying in the US there are about 10 online travel companies. In Europe there's about 65, but Europe is only processing about 1/3 the number of transactions as in the US. So really what that's saying is there's huge opportunities still in the European space, and particularly focused on accommodation. So two big things, I suppose, on the financial side of it, the economics, the sort of commissions that you make from accommodation is 15 to 20% commission on selling a hotel room compared to about 5% from a flight. Much bigger room for growth and potential. And I think again, some of that is related to the kind of culture within Europe. People generally look for hotels first. Quite often they may not necessarily need a flight at all because they're traveling by car, by rail, or if they are looking for a flight, they're going to look for potentially a Ryanair option, which you can't get on any travel agent sites. You've got to go to Ryanair direct. So a couple of factors there. that are feeding into the increased focus on accommodation. Now, in Europe, it's more difficult to do the accommodation thing right than it is in the US. In the US, you can go and do a deal with Mr. Hilton and Marriott and Starwood, and probably with about 30 or 40 contracts, you've got close to 100,000 hotels. In Europe, it's a little bit different. The chain hotel penetration is a lot less. It's a lot more smaller, independent hotels, so a very fragmented market, and to try and get those on board takes a slightly different approach. But overall, accommodation market, I suppose, it's big. Euromonitor says about 500 billion. Big piece of that, obviously hotels, but also very, very big market opportunities in what I would refer to as alternate accommodation types. So whether that's self-catering, vacation rentals, guest houses, B&Bs, hostels, markets there in each of those sectors of anywhere between 5 and 15 billion. So big markets in those accommodation sectors that are slightly different to your mainstream hotels. And if you put that alongside some data from Alexa, and Alexa just runs data on traffic to websites, and their lists of the top 10 lodging sites worldwide, right? So now again, this doesn't include the sites that are more general travel agents like Expedia sell flights as well. So it's particularly the ones that focus just on accommodation. And of those top 10 sites, two things can strike me on this. Most of them are non-US companies, which again highlights the difference I pointed to a moment ago about different focus in different regions. But also 5 out of the top 10 are what I would refer to as alternate type accommodations. So, rather than the Booking.com and late rooms that are focused on just hotels, you've got 5 of the top 10 focused on hostels like Hostel World, vacation rentals, home away, obviously very strong on that. Couchsurfing, another one I'm not sure whether you're familiar with, which is a not-for-profit organisation that's almost like an exchange for people who want to find a bed or a couch or something in somebody else's house to sleep on. So, accommodation overall, big market, and an increasing focus on alternate accommodation offers. To try to be successful in the alternative accommodation market, and I suppose particularly once you move outside the US and you can't focus on the chain hotels. It's a different approach. Hostel World or web reservations, we've got contracts with 26,000 hostels around the world. That's 26,000 individual contracts, so it's one by one. And in order to do that and to do it effectively, we've got to have a very efficient model, and we've got to be an awful lot more than just contracting the property. We've got to work with the industry to help them in a lot more than just selling their rooms. We offer them a free property management system, Backpack Online, which is a full-on reservation system that we give them for free, and allows us to get access to last bed availability to sell on our website. We give them free booking engines to use on their own sites. We run conferences for hostel owners and managers. Probably about 6 weeks ago, I hosted the Latin American Hostel World Conference, where we had about 350 hostel owners from all over Latin America came to Buenos Aires. We run one in Shanghai, we run one in Dublin. And really it's about working with the industry, not just to take their beds and sell them and get a commission on it, but to grow the overall industry. These are typically small, owner-managed properties, not very sophisticated in terms of technology, and we've got to make it very, very simple for them. We've also got to be very focused on the customer side. So obviously our core target market is the youth demographic. So apart from having the right type of product and accommodation for them, very focused on having the right supporting content in terms of videos, podcasts, guides, and so on, mobile applications, and partnering then again with the other, a network of affiliate partners that are relevant to the youth and independent traveller. through that, we've developed, I suppose, a really global business. And for a business that started in Dublin in Ireland, probably one of the advantages is that you realise from day one that you've got to be international, because Ireland just isn't a big enough market. So there are a lot of online travel companies that start in the UK or in Germany or various other countries, and they focus first on their own market. We very much went international from day one, and work now with 180 with properties in 180 countries, so 26,000 properties in 180 countries. But also in terms of our customers and where they're coming from, a hugely diverse mix there. US is our highest nationality, followed by Australia, but you look at Canada in there, Brazil I think is number 8, China is number 11 or 12. So really a global mix in terms of both the customer demographic and the destinations they're traveling to. And the key to our success has been our business model. Now, probably difficult to see that from the chart up there, but the model we work is when a customer comes to our website to make a reservation, enters their credit card details, we take a 10% deposit. It's a non-refundable deposit. It's in our bank account tomorrow morning. That's our commission, effectively. And the customer pays the 90% balance to the hostel when they check in. So what that means is we've got our money as soon as the reservation is made. The hostel has their money as soon as the customer checks in. There's no invoicing, there's no administration, reconciliation, credit control, bad debts, any of that sort of thing. We've just taken all of that out of the mix by developing a model that works and works well. And particularly when you're selling what's a relatively low-priced product like hostel accommodations, it's important that it is as automated and as efficient as possible. So when you compare that model to the model that's operated by most of the, as I refer to the mainstream online travel agents, who typically operate either a fully prepaid model or a fully postpaid model. Now, in the prepaid model, the customer pays the full amount to the OTA, and the hotel then invoices the OTA after the customer is checked out. In the post-pay model, it works the opposite way, so the customer doesn't pay anything to the OTA, they pay the full amount to the hotel, and then the OTA invoices the hotel. Both of those models just have a huge amount of administrative effort in terms of settling those payments and the commission payments on them, in terms of the reconciliation of did the guest turn up, did he stay longer or shorter than he had originally booked, the invoicing, the collections and all of that. And really for us, we just took all of that out of it by developing the model where we get our money when we should and the hostel gets their money when they should. And what that has done is allowed us to develop a business with probably the highest margins in the industry. So we run an EBITDA margin last year of 56%, so that's more than twice the EBITDA margin of Expedia or Priceline, 3 times the margin of Orbitz, and it's just all about automation and efficiencies. A lot of people, ask about the effect of the recession and whether that's been a boom for us and everybody wants to stay in budget accommodation rather than mainstream hotels. I wish it were that way. The recession has had some impact in terms of pricing on hostels as well, because as hotels compete for business and lower their prices, that has knock-on impact on hostels as well, but certainly not as dramatic as in the hotel space. So just got a couple of charts there looking at the trends in pricing in the hostel product that that we sell and the hotels product over the course of the last couple of years. So if you look on the top of North America, while the price did fall in 2009, the hostel space didn't fall anything like as much as in the hotel space, and has recovered a lot more strongly over the course of this year. And similarly in the Eurozone, probably not quite as clear as in the US, but certainly hostel pricing performed an awful lot better than the hotel pricing there, and recovering stronger as well. So I suppose in summary, what our business is all about is just getting the balance right between the property supply and the consumer demand, and making that an automated model. Our goal, obviously, is increasing the number of reservations here in the middle. We started off, with the hostel relationships. We were the first online company to provide online distribution to the hostel industry. And as I mentioned earlier, providing them with free property management system. That gives us good allocation of beds to sell, which allows us to offer a good range of choice to customers. So more choice for customers leads to more reservations. More reservations leads to more online user reviews. We've more than 3 million user-generated reviews of hostels, and they're real reviews. So unlike TripAdvisor, where anyone can leave a review, on Hostel World you have to be a customer. You only get allowed to make a review if you've made a reservation. So those reviews provide us with good content that help our search engine rankings. Good search engine rankings leads to increased traffic for our site, which leads to increased reservations, and obviously that makes the hostel owners a lot happier. They give us more allocation, and it goes around in that cycle again. Just to wrap up, I suppose, the key points, the increased focus, I think, from all the online travel players on the accommodation sector, the alternative accommodation types like hostels, villa rentals, and so on, becoming more and more important. Importance in targeting those markets of having a really efficient automated model, and that's about it. Thank you very much.